A woolly mammoth erupts from a blizzard, tusks sweeping frozen air, shaking the ground beneath 10,000 kilograms of living fury. This was no frozen wasteland. It was the most megafauna-rich ecosystem Earth has ever seen, stretching from Spain to Alaska. A cave lion stalks prey it will never catch again. Through AI, we resurrect creatures lost for 12,000 years. For over 2 million years, ice ages gripped Earth in cycles, sculpting continents, redirecting rivers, reshaping every living thing. Glaciers locked away so much ocean water that sea levels dropped over 100 meters, connecting continents by land. Then, almost suddenly, it ended. The giants vanished. The ice retreated. One species was left standing. Why? Where the North Sea exists today, 20,000 years ago, you could walk across dry land. Sea levels plummeted over 100 meters. Ocean floors became land. Geography was rewritten. This was Doggerland, a landmass swallowed by the sea. Megafauna roamed where fish now swim. How precisely did the Ice Age sculpt Earth's geography so completely? Glaciers were engines, grinding bedrock, rerouting rivers, carving valleys. But not in decades. Rivers were forced into new paths. The Thames once flowed north. The Rhine drained into open steppe. Ice sheets kilometers thick pressed land downward, continents sinking under the weight of frozen water. As ice retreated, land slowly rose. Scandinavia is still rising today, around 3 centimeters every year. The Ice Age was not merely a climate event. It was a geological force, reshaping Earth's surface. Into this remade world, extraordinary creatures evolved, of remarkable size and power. How did creatures this large survive and thrive in a world of ice? A single footprint, frozen in mud for 12,000 years, larger than a dinner plate. Something enormous walked here. The Ice Age was not empty. It teemed with giants unlike anything alive today. What kinds of giants? How many species? How strange and how powerful could they become? The woolly mammoth stood 4 meters tall, tusks curved like scimitars, some stretching 5 meters long. Those tusks were not weapons. They were shovels, scraping ice to reach buried grasses beneath. Size itself was survival. A larger body retains heat more efficiently. The cold selected for giants. The woolly rhinoceros carried a double horn and dense rust-colored fur, built for endurance. Ireland had giant deer, megaloceros, antlers spanning 3.5 meters, wider than a small car. Cave lions prowled Europe, 10% larger than African lions today, apex predators of the frozen steppe. Paraceratherium's distant cousins still roamed Asia. The steppe was a continent-spanning ecosystem, interconnected, vast. This was the mammoth steppe, the largest biome on Earth. Stretching from Spain to Alaska without interruption, these animals did not merely survive the cold. They engineered it, shaping the very landscape around them. Trampling kept permafrost frozen. Grazing spread grasses. Giants maintaining a world built for giants. But something would challenge this world, something that had never before threatened creatures of this scale. How could these giants, rulers of a continent, face a threat they could not outlast? The giants ruled for millennia, but survival demanded more than size. It demanded strategy. One mammoth breath costs more energy than a human burns in an entire day. Every steppe creature had evolved a precise, engineered answer to the cold. How did creatures this large endure temperatures that would kill a human in hours? First answer: insulation. Fat up to 10 centimeters thick beneath dense, double-layered fur. Insulation alone was not enough. Food lay buried under meters of compacted snow and ice. Those tusks, once thought weapons, were precision tools, shovels, scrapers, levers. Herds tracked the seasonal snow edge, always following the grass. Calves stayed at the herd center, shielded by walls of adult bodies. Cave lions hunted in coordinated groups, a behavior rare among big cats. Every adaptation was a response written in bone, fur, and behavior over 10,000 generations. These strategies held for millennia. Then one new pressure began to build. A small, controlled fire on the steppe. The giants had never faced a predator that planned ahead. What happened when the giants and the planners finally collided? 30,000 years ago, something changed on the steppe. A new hunter arrived, and it remembered. Small figures, upright, carrying spears tipped with flint, sharper than any claw. They had studied the herd for days. They knew its path. They had chosen their ground. The mammoths sensed nothing. 10 tons of muscle, walking into a trap. Fire drove the herd. Hunters ignited the grass behind them, cutting off retreat. Panic. The herd splintered. Calves separated from mothers in seconds. Hunters drove a young bull toward a ravine. Planned, practiced, precise. Spears flew, a volley, coordinated as any wolf pack. The young bull fell at the ravine's edge. The steppe went quiet. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a pattern. One hunt, one herd, but humans were spreading across every continent. Megafauna that had survived ice ages, predators, and famine now faced something unprecedented. A predator that needed no claws, one that learned and returned season after season. The megafauna had no genetic answer for this, not yet. Yet the mammoths did not vanish overnight. Something else was happening too. The climate was shifting. The world mammoths were built for was disappearing. Was it the hunters, the warming, or both? A double pressure no species could withstand. That question defines everything that comes next. Mammoths didn't need hunters to lose their world. The planet itself was turning against them. 12,000 years ago, temperatures rose sharply, faster than any warming in 100,000 years. The mammoth steppe, a frozen grassland larger than any biome on Earth today, began to vanish. This was the mammoth's entire food system. Gone, replaced by waterlogged terrain their bodies weren't built for. Mammoths had survived warming before, multiple times over hundreds of thousands of years. Greenland ice cores reveal it. Warm periods, cold snaps, cycles the mammoths had ridden before. So, what made this warming different? What had changed? This time, warming didn't arrive alone. It arrived alongside something the ecosystem had never encountered before. Climate fractured the habitat. Humans closed the exits. Together they formed a trap with no escape. The greatest threat wasn't cold or predators. It was two pressures arriving simultaneously. On islands beyond hunters' reach, mammoths survived thousands of years longer than expected. Wrangel Island. The last mammoths survived until just 4,000 years ago. While the pyramids were being built, then humans reached Wrangel Island. The mammoths vanished. 30,000 years ago, a small group crossed into the coldest place on Earth. No maps, no shelters waiting. Temperatures averaged -20. Winds cut through everything. No fire already burning. They didn't just survive, they spread across an entire frozen continent. How? The answer starts with clothing. Animal hides, layered, tailored, sewn with bone needles. Bone needles found across Ice Age sites are among humanity's oldest inventions. Tiny tools, enormous consequences. Clothing alone wasn't enough. Humans needed food, and the Ice Age offered something extraordinary. Megafauna were walking food stores. A single mammoth could feed a group for weeks. Hunters used the landscape as a weapon, driving herds towards cliffs, bogs, river crossings. Coordinated hunting required planning, communication, a cognitive leap that changed everything. Climate reshaped the world. Humans reshaped themselves to match it, again and again. As the mammoth steppe fractured, human strategies shifted. New prey, new tools, new territories. They carved art into cave walls, mapped stars, and traded materials across hundreds of kilometers. This wasn't just survival. It was a species rewriting the rules of what living things could do. What happens when a species this adaptable meets a world already in collapse? The Ice Age was ending, the megafauna were vanishing, and the extinctions were just beginning. 12,000 years ago, the giants vanished. Not slowly, not quietly. Species roaming Earth for millions of years. Gone within centuries. The woolly mammoth, the giant ground sloth, the cave lion. Creatures that defined an entire world erased in a geological blink. What caused it? Scientists have argued for decades. The answer remains unsettlingly incomplete. Climate shifted first. As ice retreated, the mammoth steppe, that vast, productive grassland, began to shrink and fragment. Mammoths needed vast territories. Shrinking habitat meant shrinking herds. Populations became isolated, vulnerable. But climate alone doesn't explain the timing. Something else was happening. Something unprecedented in Earth's history. Humans spread into every continent and habitat. Wherever they arrived, megafauna losses followed. In Australia, megafauna vanished shortly after humans arrived, 46,000 years ago. In the Americas, the pattern repeated. These animals had survived dozens of previous climate cycles. They had never encountered a predator that planned, communicated, and adapted. The megafauna had no fear of humans, no evolutionary memory of them. Naive to a threat unlike anything before. Climate, human pressure, perhaps disease, possibly all three converging at the worst moment for Earth's largest animals. The last woolly mammoths survived on a remote Arctic island until 4,000 years ago, when the pyramids of Egypt were already ancient. Then they too were gone. A world existing for over 1 million years ended. We are still living in the aftermath. But this wasn't just an ending. What humans did next, with the world they inherited, would change everything. Again. For over 1 million years, giants ruled a frozen world. Mammoths, cave lions, giant sloths, a planet unlike anything alive today. In a geological instant, that world collapsed. Climate shifted. Humans arrived. The giants disappeared. One by one, we inherited an emptied world. Every ecosystem we know was shaped by those vanished giants. Scientists are piecing together what was lost and what that loss means for the planet's future. Some researchers ask the unthinkable. Could we bring them back? De-extinction, once science fiction, is now science. Restoration raises harder questions. If the mammoth returned, would it restore the world or reshape it unpredictably? The Ice Age is not ancient history. It is a mirror reflecting what we are capable of and what we might yet choose. If the last extinction was partly our doing, what responsibility do we carry now? If this journey through deep time moved you, subscribe. New chapters of Earth's story are waiting.